We're talking old school, we're talking new school, we're talking some people are in school. My name is Patrick Pac-Man Bettis. It is time to jump online, time to stream the dream. We are coming to you from across the pond. We have a very special guest today joining us all the way from Europe. Where did I go? Great Britain, England. Our brothers and sisters across
Close
the
enough.
sea. Yeah, it changed. The wonderful Deanna is going to be leading us today. So please, everybody, join me and give some snaps to Deanna.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all our listeners for tuning in today. I am so extremely excited today because we have a special guest, as Patrick mentioned. His name is Leigh Brandon. I came across this. Actually, he came across to us, and when he reached out, I was so excited because Leigh is a medicine practitioner, Czech practitioner. He's a manual therapist. He focuses on healing, energy work. I mean, he has so many layers. But I want him to tell his story, his journey, and all the magic and all the healing that he does. So without further ado, I want everyone to give a round of applause to Leigh.
Thank you very much. That's probably the best introduction I've ever had, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, to give you my story, I would have to take you back to the 1990s. So you mentioned the old school. That probably is the 1990s. And I was working as a personal trainer in a gym, and I was doing a session with a lady. She was doing a lat pull down exercise, which most people have seen or heard of, and she pulled the bar down, and she kind of winced and she screamed and she let go of the bar and it went up and the weights came smashing down and she's grabbing hold of her shoulder in pain, and I'm thinking, what just happened there, right? And I felt kind of anxious. I felt completely inadequate because I didn't really know why she was in pain. Um, I had studied with what I considered, and most people considered back then, to be the gold standard certification, which was with the American College of Sports Medicine. But that clearly wasn't enough. And, that moment really kind of stuck with me and it really pushed me forwards to learn more. So, I mean, even at that point, I was still very much into education and educating myself. But I'd been reading articles by a guy called Paul Chek for about 3 or 4 years before then. And it was around that time that he announced he was going to start teaching his courses in the UK. So I started studying his work. In the first year, we dove into like biomechanics and a little bit about pain science. And further in the training, we looked more at nutrition and we looked at nervous system work. A bit further down the line, so I studied with the Czech Institute from 2001 to 2007. It was about 5.5 years I studied. So they're based in San Diego. In 2008, I graduated in functional diagnostic nutrition. And what happened at the first year of my Czech training, what kind of really stands out for me, is that there was a lady that she joined. I was working in a health club at the time, and she joined the health club, but the club manager said to her, I'm only going to let you join the club as a member if you also sign up to work with Leigh, because Leigh's an expert in lower back pain. And this lady was in her 40s. She was a professional dancer, but hadn't danced for a couple of years because of her back pain. And, not only was she not working, but dancing was her passion. She loved to dance. And not only was it her passion, it was the way that she made a living. So she wasn't able to make a living. She wasn't able to do her passion. She was kind of doing temp work in offices. It wasn't her passion. It's almost like it was sucking the soul out of her. And even that she could only do part-time because of her back pain. So again, financially, she was, disadvantaged because of it. So I did what I'd learned in my first year of training with the Czech Institute. I did a physical analysis of her. It took about 2 hours to do. I took that information, I designed a corrective exercise program, and we were working together 3 times a week. And I said to her, look, this is probably going to be a long process. You know, it's going to take time. It's not a quick fix. And after 4 weeks, she disappeared. And I thought, oh no, what's happened?
Oh, wow.
I thought, oh no. And, you know, I had all these bad feelings come up again, thinking, oh no, have I hurt her? You know, has something gone wrong? What's happened? And I tried calling her and I couldn't get hold of her and I really didn't know what was going on. And, you know, now I'm getting anxious again.
Right.
So I went to one of the office staff. I said, look, I've tried to contact Caroline, can't get a hold of her. Can one of you guys try and get hold of her and you know, see how she is? And, you know, I went back on with the rest of my normal work. I was working with other clients. I kind of forgot about it. And then a couple of weeks later, one of the office staff came to see me on the gym floor and they said, oh, I've just got through to Caroline. I'm like, oh, how is she? They said, well, she's amazing. She's away on a dance tour. That's why you haven't been able to get
What?
hold of her. Right. So, and you know, the good thing is I never heard from Caroline again. Now I know when someone has an issue and you help them, you're the first person they come back to if they've got another issue. Right. So I never heard from her again. So I'm assuming that whatever I did in those 4 weeks actually solved the problem. If she'd have said to me, am I ready to go on a dance tour? I'd have said no, there was more work to do. But whatever we did, it worked. So from that moment on, I saw the power in the work that, I mean, and this was only year one of year five, right, from the Czech Institute. Although in year one back then, I mean, we don't teach it until year three now, but we did learn lumbar spine pathology, and that was her issue. So, you know, I then saw that I had the ability to really help people. And that did a lot for me too, right? It makes you feel good when you can help someone.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think it was Spider-Man that said, with great power comes great responsibility, or something along those lines, right? Well,
That's it.
that's
That's
kind of how I felt. I thought, right, okay, now I've got the tools to help people. So I've got a responsibility to get out there and help people. And, you know, since that time, so that was 20, 24, 25 years ago. So since then, obviously, I've helped a number of people in similar situations. And funnily enough, in 2013, I actually ruptured 2 discs in my lumbar spine. And that was an interesting experience. It took me 22 months to rehabilitate, but I rehabilitated fully. No surgery, no medications, no painkillers, no anti-inflammatories, nothing. And gone back to completely normal life, you know, high intense training, tennis competitions, everything, absolutely fine. So I used the same information that I learned teaching others to help myself. And what was quite interesting was that what I found in those 22 months is that I learned more about lower back pain than I did in all my training. Even though my training's been amazing, I actually learned more going through the experience myself. You know, just silly things like, okay, if you've got a ruptured disc and you've got neuropathic pain shooting down your leg, and it gets worse if you flex forwards or you lift your leg up, how do you put your underwear on? How do you put your shoes and socks on? Right? Because that's not easy. I mean, luckily for me, the initial symptoms started in June and it was quite hot that June. So I could get away with like wearing Birkenstock sandals, right? If it had been middle of December, January, snow on the ground, it would have been a bit more awkward. But yeah, I learned a lot from that experience, and it helped me become a much better practitioner. But as you said, so the way that I look at pain is from 4 different angles. So one would be structural slash biomechanical. One would be metabolic slash nutritional. A third way would be nervous system regulation. That has a big part. And the other part that I think a lot of people don't recognize so much is unresolved emotional trauma can also cause pain in the body. And there's a number of different theories around that. So I work from all of those angles. And that's why, you know, as you alluded to, you know, I work with exercise, I work with nutrition, I work with manual therapy, I work with energy medicine, because the human body is very complex, and it's an integrated system of systems, and you have to understand how each system reflects on another system or influences another system. And it's rarely one system that's involved when it comes to particularly chronic pain, so long-term pain. So that's a little bit of an overview of the last kind of 25, 26 years of my life.
Wow.
This is, I got to jump in again. So the universe has brought us together, Leigh. So I have a friend, he's very into the holistic health, and he's been bringing up this emotional. Well, first, thanks for sharing all that, because I'm taking notes now. This is good stuff. That the emotional trauma that we can carry in our body, to me, I'm like, yeah, chronic pain. I'm a dancer, same mid 40s. I still try to break dance, and then I regret it the next day. And so when he told me about, I got this release of this emotional trauma, it was in my leg. To me, I'm just like, say what? Say what? So can you kind of unpack that a little bit, for people like me who are trying to understand how, because I do believe the body holds trauma. We keep a record of that. But for the emotional traumas that we hold and how it can limit us, like, we're like, right now my leg hurts. And I think because I've been sitting so much. But, taking that from a physical to the emotional, like what would you diagnose? Like, you know, big meaty leg right here for you. What are we looking at?
Well, the first thing I say, I don't diagnose. I never diagnose. Right? I leave that to medical professionals. But in terms of when it comes to emotional issues and emotions causing pain, I'm not saying that that is always part of the cause, because some of the time it's not. I think a lot of the time it actually is.
Mhm.
And there are a number of different thoughts behind how emotions can create pain in the body. So one way of looking at it is that pain is always a teacher, and
Mm.
pain is always trying to make you aware of something that you're not aware of. So if there's some emotional trauma that you need to deal with, quite often what the way that the body works is that dealing with emotional trauma is more painful than dealing with physical pain,
Mhm.
That's so
right?
true.
Mhm.
So the body will almost distract itself in that sense. But let me give you an example of one person I worked with, because this is quite a good story to explain it. So this lady, she came to see me right at the end of my check training, actually. So I was in San Diego. She was actually from Hawaii, and she presented with pain left side of her neck, left shoulder, left arm, left lower back. Now, I had 4 days with her to help her. And I did my usual physical examination. We discussed nutrition and lifestyle. But if you look at the body from a kind of more Eastern philosophy perspective, the Eastern philosophy, so particularly Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine, they enable you to read the body like a map. Now, in more kind of Ayurvedic principles, the body has 7 chakras in the body, and they're energy vortices, right? Okay, you guys are nodding, so I'm guessing you've heard of those before. And each one of them refers to specific functions in the body. So when I looked at her pain was in the region of first and second chakra with the lower back, and the fifth chakra with her neck, shoulder, arm. So the first chakra is to do with safety and security, but also tribal association. The second chakra can also be related to tribal association, amongst other things. The fifth chakra is communication. Okay. And again, in these Eastern philosophies, they suggest that the right side of the body is the male energy and the left side of the body is female energy. So, looking at her symptoms from an Eastern perspective, I asked her a very simple question. And my first question was, I'm just curious, what's your relationship like with your mother?
Mm.
All right. Well, this relatively shy, polite woman exploded like a box of fireworks when I asked that question. Right? Don't talk to me about my mother. She never loved me. We don't get on. I haven't spoken to her for 20 years. Right? And I was like, whoa, okay. Because I didn't know if that was the issue or not. I wasn't going to assume.
Mhm.
But as soon as she exploded, I was like, okay, I might be onto something here. Okay. So what I did for most of the 4 days, yes, I went through her exercise program. I went through her nutrition with her. I actually taught her a technique called nonviolent communication. And what I wanted her to do when she went back home was to reach out to her mother, who she was estranged from, and to basically say, look, when I was a child, this is how I felt. The way that you were made me feel this way, basically unloved and unwanted. And then to allow the mother to respond and to say, look, this is how I would have liked to have been treated, and this is how I would have liked to have felt. So basically, she felt unloved, and that was the trauma that had been building up all this time.
Mhm.
So I came back to the UK. She went back to Hawaii, and about 6 months later, I get a letter from Hawaii, and I think, I know who that's from. And I open the letter, and to paraphrase, she said, "I can't thank you enough. Not only is all my pain, what I didn't tell you, the pain in her lower back and her left shoulder arm, she'd had for over 25 years.
Mm.
And she said, I can't thank you enough. Not only is all my pain gone, but my relationship with my mother is amazing. We see each other every day and we get on like a house on fire."
Wow.
Right? So, so the way that I look back on that is that the reason that she had this pain was because at an emotional level, her body was saying, you need to deal with
Right.
this trauma. It was trauma to her as a child, right? If you don't feel loved by your mother, that's going to be traumatic, and it doesn't have to be like majorly, a major event for it to be trauma to a child, right? It can be something as an adult you think is relatively small, but something like that you can see is quite a big thing. There is another kind of, I guess it's a theory. So that there's a guy called Dr. John Sarno, and his theory, he's not with us anymore, but he suggests that there's a thing called tension myoneural syndrome, which he suggests when you have repressed emotional trauma, so you don't know the emotions are there, they're under the surface. It creates tension in the body, and he suggests that tension causes a restriction in the blood flow to the area. So it could be a muscle, it could be a tendon, it could be a nerve. And it's that restriction of blood and therefore oxygen that causes the pain. So that's his theory. I'm open to everything I've said so far. I'm open-minded. I don't just shut things off because there's not 100 research papers that have proven it to be true. But it's certainly, in my experience, emotions are probably in most chronic pain conditions the most prevalent, I would suggest. And for the audience, just to make it really clear, when I say chronic, the technical definition of a chronic pain is anything that's lasted more than 3 months. So, if someone fell over and hurt their knee, it's not necessarily because they've got trauma, right? It's they fell over, they hit their knee. There's physical pain is there for a reason, right? Pain is there as it's a danger warning signal, right? It's your nervous system is constantly scanning your environment, external and internal, for danger. Now, if you're walking down your garden path one day and you're in bare feet, you tread on something sharp, your nervous system hopefully will kick in early enough to prevent you from fully pushing down on that sharp object and it goes through your foot. Pain is there for a positive reason. It's there to protect you, right? But what happens with someone with a chronic pain condition, often, like my lady from Hawaii, she bashed her back and she fell off a mountain bike and fell on her arm, but that doesn't explain why she had the pain for more than 20 years. What can happen is the nervous system can become overly sensitized.
Mm.
So if you think of it like a smoke alarm in your house, right? If you're asleep at night, you're unconscious to your environment, right? You need the smoke alarm to be your nervous system to warn you of danger, right? So if your house is on fire, you want the fire alarm to go off. Now, if the fire department turn up, you don't want them firing the water at the fire alarm, right? You want them firing at the fire, right? Now, the unfortunate thing is most people in chronic pain, when they go and see medical doctor, the medical doctor fires the water at the smoke alarm, not the fire. And what I mean by that is they give them anti-inflammatories and painkillers, which is numbing down the danger signal, but it's not dealing with the thing that's causing the danger. Does that make sense?
Oh, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good example. Really good.
It really
Yeah,
is.
and another way to look at it as well is, if you remember back in the 80s when car alarms first came out, they were overly sensitive. Like, a big truck goes down the road, all the car alarms go off, right? But no one's been trying to steal a car. It's just overly sensitive. So if you have an overly sensitive nervous system, the most minor thing can cause pain. Whereas for a normal person, it wouldn't be painful at all,
Mm.
right? It's just an overly sensitive danger warning system. So that's, I mean, it's almost two things in one. You've got the emotions, but then you've got the nervous system overstimulation. But there's other things that can overstimulate the nervous system. And one of them is a poor diet. So if people are eating foods that are inflammatory, so it could be industrial seed oils, for grains for some people can be quite inflammatory. Processed sugars are inflammatory for pretty much everybody. If foods aren't organic, they've got pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, rodenticides. You might have glyphosate in there. You might have antibiotics from meats or fish that you've eaten. They might have been vaccinated as well. So there's all these toxins potentially in the food supply that is going to be further sensitizing the nervous system and lowering your threshold to pain. And that's what we call central sensitization, when someone's nervous system is overly sensitized and they're feeling pain, but there's no real damage and there's no danger. So pain is real. No one's saying that pain is made up, but pain is created in the brain, right? It's perceiving what's going on in its external and internal environment. So that's a little bit of an overview of pain for your audience.
No, okay. I see, Patrick, you're about to say something. If are you about to?
No, I'm messaging
Okay.
all of my
Okay.
chakra healthy food people, just telling them like this guy today is just reading the mail. So
So and it's Leigh, you touched on a couple of things, and I think it's so important for our listeners to hear. There is a type of pain that is actually there that, a doctor can like you tear your ACL, your meniscus, whatever, that is actual pain that you need to treat.
Mhm.
It's not, it's now, however, there are many times, like as you mentioned, you have this chronic pain that there is like really no reason, like you haven't torn anything, but it's sitting there. And so fundamentally, this is where you have to really look at what you're eating, and your emotion, because our body is trying to balance all these things.
Mm,
And so a person like yourself, you're out there, you're helping guide this person to discover where's the problem coming from. Is this a really truly medical thing? And I just want the listeners to hear that we're not saying don't see your doctors, but there fundamentally are other things that can be causing this chronic pain. And I love the way you talked about nutrition, because nutrition is a major thing, especially here in America. Like,
mm,
we are such unhealthy eaters.
mm,
Like, we are like the worst eaters in the world. Like, we go to fast food restaurants. We just eat all these terrible unhealthy foods,
Trying to
and
be
we
healthy
don't
with Greek yogurt. Mm.
get me. I am drinking my fresh coconut water.
Hippie.
Yeah. But no, and I think that when you have a client that comes to you and you find out, like, literally they're just eating every day at a fast food restaurant because they catch breakfast, they go to Taco Bueno, whatever, to catch their little Taco Bueno breakfast burritos, whatever. Then for lunch, because they're at work, they're on the rush and they go to Burger King or whatever, McDonald's, and they go to all these places, these fast food restaurants. And then because they're so tired that they can't cook, which is tiredness is because of the unhealthy eating, mind you, right? So,
mm.
but what would you say to them? What are the starting points? Like, I have a listener here saying, what would you tell them?
Well, the starting point is the starting point that I always use with everyone is what's your dream,
Mm, I love that. Okay.
right? What do you want to achieve? And, most of the time it will be, well, I don't want this pain anymore, right? That's not really their dream. That's what they don't want, right? So I often say to people, okay, so if pain is what you don't want, I want you to tell me what you do want. Or if pain isn't what you want to feel, how do you want to feel? I get them to flip it. And I
Hmm.
say, I want you to tell me your dream without using any negative word. So you can't use the word pain, you can't use the word not, don't, all those kind of words, right? And so eventually they might say, well, I want my lower back to feel strong and flexible and mobile. Okay, great, excellent. Now let's imagine your lower back strong and it's flexible and it's mobile. What's that going to enable you to do that you can't do now,
Mm.
right? Oh, well, I'll be able to go back to work. I'll be able to go back to sport. I'll be able to go back to dancing. I'll be able to look after my own kids, or I'll be able to look after my grandchildren, right? And now we're starting to really get somewhere, right? So you've got to start with what do you want to achieve, right? There's a saying by a psychologist called Jerry Wesh, and he says if you have a big enough dream, you don't need a crisis,
Mm.
right?
Cool. Hmm.
So you've got to have this North Star to aim for. And that's what I really get people to really, really focus on. Now, when I start working with people, like once I agree to take someone on, and they do have to jump through hoops to work with me, the first thing we do, we spend an hour minimum goal setting, right? Because I want them to get them focused on the goal. The next stage of that process, once we know what they want to achieve and their why do they want to achieve it? That's the important thing, the why. That's where the motivation is, right?
Hmm.
The next stage is setting core values. So I set core values around their happiness, their diet, their movement, and their rest and recovery. And they set them. I don't set them. I might guide them, right? But if someone says to me, well, yeah, I want to get out of pain and I might want to lose a bit of weight as well. And okay, so do you think with what you're eating now is going to get you to where you want to be? Right? And most people know, right? Most people know. And so that's when things like core values around your diet can be really, really useful. And when you set your own core values, they don't have to be perfection, right?
Hmm.
So if I was to share mine with you, so I only buy organic food, right? I only buy, if I'm buying like lamb and beef and venison, it's always, well, venison's wild, but I only buy grass-fed beef and lamb.
Hmm.
I only buy organic vegetables. I only buy raw milk. I only buy raw butter, right? I eat right for what's called my metabolic type. So each of us are different. So I do very well on a very high animal based, low plant based diet. But then there are some people that are the complete opposite. And a lot of that comes down to your genetics, right? When I had hair, it was quite fair colored. I've got blue eyes, pale skin, right? I'm from a northern country, right? So that's how my ancestors would have eaten too. Um, but then when I'm working with people, I get them to analyze how they feel after they've eaten. And what I say to them when they come to me with, so they have to send me diet sheets and their tick boxes in terms of how they feel about 90 minutes after they've eaten. And what I say to them is there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. The way that you respond to your meals is feedback. If you have great responses, so you still feel full 90 minutes later, you've got good energy, you've got mental clarity after that meal, that's telling you that that meal is good for you. If you're hungry, if you need a snack, if you're feeling like you need sugar, if your energy's down, if you're feeling emotionally down, there's feedback that whatever you ate in that meal wasn't right for you. So we need to make some changes.
Hmm.
So when people are eating the wrong things, they're ticking all the red boxes, right? So that just tells them that they need to create change. So by setting very clear goals, by setting core values, and by monitoring your responses to how you eat, gives the person the right information and the right motivation to make the changes that they need.
I love that. You know what I really, really love what you just have said is that the person is selecting their journey, not being told. They're actually, okay, you want to get here, and they're monitoring, they're managing them. They're taking responsibility. And so I love that. That is wonderful. And it's so true what you say when you start paying attention, because I have had to pay attention to what I eat, and I'm noticing, oh my gosh, red meat is not suiting me well like it used to, and I have to start like moving away. If when I
Mm,
eat chicken, I feel different from when I eat fish and chicken versus eating that red meat. It hits me heavy, or
mm.
anything that contains too much fat. So I love the plan that you have, that you set. It's wonderful, and I could see why it's so successful.
Yeah, I mean, my view is when it comes to nutrition, there's no room for dogma. Everyone's individual, and it sounds like you're the opposite to me in terms of what you need right now, and it's
Mhm.
good that you recognize that. And I have clients that are just like you, and they're doing great with a predominantly plant-based and a little bit of animal-based diet. They're thriving. But then there are other people, if they were eating that way, they wouldn't be. So there's definitely no room for dogma when it comes to nutrition, in my view. It's all about the individual and what they need.
That is so true. It's my son, much younger. He actually eats more animal based. Like he has to have
Mm,
his it's a high. I have to have high protein, but my protein has to come in a different manner. Yes, I eat the red meats, but I don't do it like every day. I can't do it every single day.
mm,
So I kind of supplement it other high protein items. My son can eat red meat all the time, and he's like going through his weight loss. He's regular. He feels good, energized. I can't do it all the time.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I like that you're saying that it goes to each person, because I have friends in my circle that are very into the health fitness, but it's always like you've got to be eating grass fed beef for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and maybe one potato a week. But it's like that's for them,
Mm,
that's kind of their journey, and I thanks for sharing that too, Deanna, because I've always been, I'm very opposed to my own people's food, Mexican food, because I'm like, it's very carb heavy with the tortillas, and I mean it's so good, but you put the tortillas with the rice, and then you're just in a carb coma, and the energy, then you're hungry an hour later, and but then it goes to the opposite spectrum that I eat a lot of chicken. Chicken is my friend. I eat it, but then I kind of don't balance it with a good carb. And so it's like we ate yesterday, we had chicken, it was great. And then 10 o'clock last night, I'm making pancakes. I'm like, yeah, you know, we're going this route now. But it's, it's getting those healthy carbs. And I
Mhm.
like how you say there's no failure, it's just feedback. So I'm like, yeah, the feedback is I probably should have had some potatoes with my chicken to
Yeah.
balance it out.
I love that we were talking about the nutrition. Now I want to talk about energy work.
Mm.
Let's dive
She's
into
going to
that.
the woo. I was happy in the food, in the back
See,
pain, and
Patrick and I, we balance each other out because Patrick is more like, more a little bit more on the scientific. I'm into the woo-woo stuff. Okay. I love it.
Listen, I'm into both. I'm
Yeah.
into science and I'm into woo-woo as well.
Yeah.
And I always say to people, things that are woo-woo are things that science haven't worked out how to measure yet,
Thank you. Thank
yeah.
you.
right?
Which, and I'll
Yes.
I'll even ask this because when it comes to as a performance machine, in my 40s, a lot of people aren't still dancing at this level. So I'm trying to optimize, but I will say that I do go towards the woo in these areas because I swear by the needles. What are the needles?
Acupuncture.
Acupuncture.
Acupuncture and stuff. And I've had like more success with that than my podiatrist who's like, well, we're gonna give you just these new inserts and get these shoes and here's some pills. I'm like, I want to heal this machine. I don't just want that. So I will say there, I've embraced a little bit of the woo.
Patrick, I can't believe that you think acupuncture is woo. That is
Wait,
not
it's not
woo.
woo? Okay, so maybe I'm way out. Okay. It's well, it gets woo because like when I go get acupuncture, they're like, okay, they'll check my pulse, but then they're like, let us see your tongue. You have fire, lots of fire, and I'm like, what the hell? Okay, so I guess it's woo for me. It's no. Okay, so Lee, hi Lee.
Okay,
So,
energy work. We're focused.
okay,
We're
it is
focused
Well,
on
it is the
energy
energy
work.
work. It is the energy.
yeah,
Okay,
just coming back to Chinese medicine. So the challenge that science has with that is that every Chinese doctor looks at you as an individual, but science generalizes everybody,
mm,
right?
I'll
So,
take it. Say it again. Say it again. Say it again.
so a Chinese doctor looks at everyone as an individual, but science wants to lump everybody together. There's no individualism in science, right? And that's the same with nutrition. All these studies done on nutrition don't take into account what I call their metabolic type, right? Which is why there's probably, I don't know how many millions of nutrition books out there, and they're not all correct,
Mhm.
right? But in terms of the energy work, it's interesting. I actually started learning something called the body talk system back in around 2005, which works on the energetic level. And I practiced it for about 5 years. And it was around 2010. Something just said to me, this isn't for me. I think it's great, by the way, the body talk system. And I saw miracles happen in front of me. So it's not because of its effectiveness. It wasn't resonating with my heart.
Mhm.
And so I just kind of stopped doing that. But then a few years ago, um, about 2.5 years ago, I studied something called the emotion code, which again is a form of energy medicine. And I've literally only last week become certified in what's called level 2, which is the body code. And
Congratulations, by the way.
what's that?
Congratulations, by the
Thank you.
way.
Thank you. And just to kind of explain it briefly. So in quantum physics, we know that everything in the universe is a vibration.
Mhm.
Everything is vibration. Like if I tap my table, I know this might sound difficult. That's not solid, right? According to quantum physics, that is not solid. If you look at an atom, what's an atom made of? About 99.999% energy,
Mhm.
right? You might have a nucleus, a proton, and an electron, but most of it is what would be considered nothingness, right? But it's energy, it's vibration. So when I'm doing energy work, what I'm able to do is to tap into the other person's subconscious. Because again, if you look at quantum physics, there's something called entanglement, and we're all entangled. Okay,
Yes.
and it's not difficult to tap into someone else's subconscious. It's actually really, really easy. Well, it is for me. I mean, maybe some people, if you don't believe that, then it would probably be difficult. So with the body code, well, let's just do the emotion code because it's simpler. With the emotion code, if I'm working with someone, I tap into their subconscious and I ask their subconscious. So let's say someone comes to me because they've got lower back pain, and I will ask, is there any trapped emotions that can be released now that's relating to that lower back pain? And it will say yes or no. Okay, most of the time it does say yes, right? Sometimes it says no, and there's a chart of emotions, and you go through and say, right, let's find the emotion, and you go through each of the emotions, and you might say, right, I'll pick one out of there, fear. And then you might need to know more information about that particular emotion. Like, do we need to know what age the person was when they experienced that fear? Was that emotion absorbed from someone else? So if you're close to someone, you can actually absorb an emotion that they're experiencing. Do you need to know what associated life event was happening that caused that emotion? And do you need to know where in the body that emotion is trapped? Okay. Nearly every time, certainly in my experience, it definitely wants to know where it is. The other ones, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. My understanding is if an emotion is very raw, it might not want to bring up that emotion to the conscious mind because it can be quite traumatic. So there's nothing that we do in the body code or the emotion code is traumatic. It's all very, very gentle.
Mm-hmm.
I have had people have kind of reactions afterwards, but again, very, very few. So once we identify the emotion and any details we need to find about it, we're then able to release it. And it's just a very simple process of having the intention of this emotion leaving the body. And then again, there are a number of energy meridians in the body, which again comes from traditional Chinese medicine. One is called the governing meridian, and it goes from the inside of the mouth up the head, right the way down the spine to the perineum. And all we do is we just swipe along that meridian, and then we retest. So we use muscle testing to get yes, no answers to the questions. And then we just check, has that emotion gone, yes or no? And 99 times out of 100, it's gone. So it's actually really simple. The body code goes into a lot more areas. Like the emotion code is just emotions, whereas the body code goes into multiple areas of the body. And it could even, go to the point where it might say, oh, you need this essential oil, or oh, actually you need to go get a chiropractic adjustment, or you've got this toxin and you probably need to do some kind of detox protocol to get rid of it. So it's it's a very, very good system. And I've just in my training alone, I had one lady who, funny enough, she's Mexican. She came to me with all over body tension, which was a 9 out of 10. And after 6 sessions, it was completely gone. I had someone else who had severe eczema. She said it was a 9 out of 10 when she first came to see me. After, I think it was 4 sessions, it was down to a 6 out of 10. So it was reducing. Had another guy who was type 1 diabetic. And for the last 20 years, he'd had massive stress trying to manage his blood sugar. And he found it really difficult managing his blood sugar. And after 4 or 5 treatments, he said his blood sugar had never been so balanced as it was the week before that session. So it's been really interesting doing these sessions. And if they weren't helping people, I wouldn't continue doing them. But it's very, very interesting.
It is very interesting. And I love one of the things that you said earlier on that you mentioned was um when you're focusing on the actual individual itself. versus to generalize everyone in a bucket. It's not a one size fits all.
Mm.
And this is the beauty of when you really kind of focus in on the individual itself. You're actually going to the root of the problems. You're beginning to because not everyone is, like I said, one size fits all. So I love that. Um, any recommendations on, for example, well, let me ask you this. We have a lot of people that are in their life and in between moments, and they're are currently suffering a lot of traumas, right? And how can they reach someone like you or get in touch with you and kind of like help them guide them through traumas? Because before you answer that question, um, and I'm not dismissing therapists, but I find that um, therapists, people go to therapy and they sit years and years going to therapy, and they're just sitting there, and the emotional traumas aren't being healed, versus um, your sessions will last less with people that the practitioners that like yourself that do this versus like therapists. So where can they find people like you, and what recommendations could they do, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I want to say is I'm not suggesting what I do is the answer to everybody either, right?
Mhm.
You know, I'm sure there are really good psychotherapists that can help people that have been
Right,
in trauma, right? But like in any profession, there's good, and there's not so good,
right.
right? In terms of the work that I do, um, most of my training, certainly the foundation of what I do, comes from the Czech Institute,
Mm.
and you can find Czech practitioners at czekinstitute.com. That's CHEK institute.com. The emotion code and the body code. There is a third level called the belief code, which I will come on to do at some point. Their website's called discoverhealing.com. So again, you can find practitioners on there, including myself. If people want to reach out to me, my website is bodycheck. So it's bodychek.co.uk. They can reach me there. I've got some things on my website that are free. So I've got something called a pain-free plate, which helps people know what foods are ideal for reducing pain and inflammation in the body. I've got group coaching programs, and obviously I work one-to-one with people as well. People can reach out for a discovery call with me. It's 15 minutes long, and it's more to see if we're a good fit to work with each other. You
Mhm.
know, there are some people that they're not ready to work with me, and for some people, I'm not right for them as well. And yeah, it's all about just making sure that we're right for each other, because it's a commitment generally. If people want to work with me, I don't do quick fixes, and people have to be ready to take responsibility to look after themselves. I'm not a healer. I'm not a fixer. I see myself more as an educator than anything else,
Mm.
and I
Okay.
can I can educate and empower people to heal themselves. That's really what I do.
I like that.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, this is
Um,
good.
do you have any questions, Patrick? Because I can continue. You know me.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, this is so good. I mean, I've got my full notes going here, and I think it's good because it's you're offering what you can, but you're coming from a place that this gives you life just as much as you're giving life to others. This is giving you life, which yeah, there's a lot of burned out therapists out there who are just going through the motions. Here's your checklist, and so I think that's giving you the energy to keep going. And I'm learning, because I know that the traumas that we carry can inhibit, can keep us, in relationships, physically, mentally, all of that. So maybe what are 2 to 3 steps that, if you could package in a general way for our listeners, what are some ways they can kind of come back to a homeostasis, or become aware of their own regulation and their nervous system and stuff?
I would actually. I'm not going to give you three. I'm going to give you six.
Oh, okay, even better.
And these are what we teach at the Czech Institute as the foundations of health. Number one is to have positive thoughts, and that's the most important, right? And I've touched on that already,
Hmm.
right? There's something called stinking thinking,
Hmm.
right? If you keep thinking negative, again, remember everything's a vibration. If you're constantly thinking negative thoughts, you're bringing negative vibration into your world. And and also remember that we are 70% water,
Hmm.
and water is one of the best storers of memory, right? The biggest supercomputers in the world use water as the hard drive,
That's true. Yeah.
right? And if you look at the work of people like Dr. Emoto, Vader Austin, they've got some amazing work with, if you put water on a piece of paper that says love, and then you freeze that water, it creates a beautiful crystal. And if you put the same water on a glass above the word hate, it creates a horrible looking crystal, right? Or if you play classical music, or the Beatles, creates beautiful crystals. If you play heavy metal or gangster rap, it makes the most ugly, horrible looking, yeah, right?
Deanna and her gangster rap. Deanna, you got to lay off of
Yeah,
it.
I like my game. No, I like heavy. And see, I like see, I music. I love all kinds of music. So yeah, that was, and I like rock. I like rock and heavy metal and gangster rap. Okay, so okay, never mind. Okay, I
Yes.
digress.
So it just illustrates how important your thoughts are, because every cell in your body is listening, and most of your cells are water, right? The next thing is your breathing, right?
Mm.
When you're stressed, your breathing speeds up, it becomes shallow, you start chest breathing, you become you it pushes you into a fight or flight. It becomes a vicious cycle. So you need to be aware of how you breathe. So you need to breathe in and out of your belly. You need to breathe deeply. You need to breathe slowly, right? And there's lots of different breath work techniques. So that's number two. Number three is hydration, right? There are billions of biochemical reactions that take place in the human body every second, and they're all water dependent. Okay. And hydrating with good quality water, making sure you've got electrolytes, etc., really, really important. And again, you could go down another deep rabbit hole just with hydration, starting to talk about filtration systems and structured water and hydrogen water, and that's a whole nother episode. The next most important thing is diet. Again, eating right for your type, eating high quality as much as you can. Fifth, movement. You've got to move the body. It has so many benefits, but you've got to move them in the right amount. And that's again why it's important to get your values right.
Mhm.
You don't want to over exercise, you don't want to under exercise. And you've got to tune into your body every day and say, what does my body need in terms of exercise? If you've got loads of energy, you can go and do something really intense. If you're feeling a bit low, a bit down, a bit sore, a bit achy, move, but do a lower intensity type of movement. It might be some yoga, some Tai Chi, some Qigong. It might be going for a walk in the forest. It might be having a gentle swim. Okay. But movement in the body is so important. And if you're in pain, move in a way that doesn't cause pain.
Mhm.
Okay. Whatever you can do that doesn't cause pain, do that. And then number six, sleep and rest and your circadian rhythm. Get to bed early, have good sleep hygiene, um, you know, sleep as soon as you can after the sun goes down, and wake up when the sun comes up. Have those six things in place, and miracles happen.
That's some really great advice. I got to work on number six. I got to work on number.
Yeah.
Most people do. Most
You
people
do sit. I see some of your emails. I'm like, what is she still doing awake?
Me
do.
too.
Yep. I mean, and I heard a phrase. Somebody said it's like these are simple steps, but they're not easy to do,
Yeah.
especially with the way we live, especially here in America. I mean, it's
But again, if you're clear on your dream
mm,
and you've set your core values, it makes things a lot easier to do. And also, you've got to remember, whenever you have the ability to make a choice, there's always three choices. Firstly, you've got the optimal choice. Secondly, you've got a suboptimal choice. And thirdly, you can be indifferent. So with the optimal choice, quite often there's short-term pain, but long-term gain,
Mhm.
right? So if you need to go and exercise and you're sat on the sofa, you've got your bag of chips and Netflix is on, right? You might, oh God, but that's probably the optimal choice, right? The suboptimal choice is generally short-term gain, long-term pain, right? If you're going to stay on the sofa eating your chips, watching a movie, it's probably not going to help you get your dream, right? And to be indifferent means to not care,
Mm.
or it can sometimes mean to take a time out. You might just not be ready. You might want to join a gym, but you haven't found the right gym yet,
Mhm.
right? So you might be looking to find a gym, but most of the time you think to yourself, right, am I making an optimal choice, a suboptimal choice, or am I being indifferent? And the
Mhm.
more optimal choices you make, the more likely you're going to achieve your dream, the more likely you're going to enjoy life. Right? I say to my clients, no one's ever achieved anything amazing by staying in their comfort zone.
Very true. Very
Right?
true.
Amazing things happen outside the comfort zone, not inside it.
That is so true.
So
Oh my gosh. I'm
so
so good.
most of a lot of my work revolves around behavior change, as you may have
Yeah,
realized,
no, yeah, that's why it's so
right?
good. It's
Because
tangible
because I
stuff.
can give someone the best exercise, nutrition, lifestyle program in the world. If they don't do it, it's not going to work. So that's why I spend so long on setting the goals, setting the core values. And, I've been churning out lots of my little phrases that I use with my clients. There's no such thing as failure, only feedback,
Mhm.
right? So
Good.
getting
Such
people
good
in that
fingers.
place where they're able to make change is really, really important.
I agree. Now, Leigh, you have a podcast, and I know
Mhm.
your podcast offers some really great advice. Where can our listeners find your podcast? Because I want people to hear your message because you have a very strong and powerful one. Where can they go?
Yeah, so my podcast is called Beyond the Pain, and you'll find it on Spotify, it's on Apple, it's on YouTube, and it's on pretty much every podcast platform.
So, listeners, did you hear that? You need to follow Leigh. Go follow Leigh and go to Beyond the Pain. I love that podcast name, by the way. That's great. It
Thank you.
really is great. Do you have any books that you have written that maybe someone, if they want to kind of like, I need more of Leigh. I need more of his stuff.
So I have 5 books that have been published so far. I'm currently just finished book 6 that should be coming out. The plan is that it will come out on the 1st of July. So I'm not sure if that will be out before this episode comes out. If you go to Amazon and type in my name, you'll find most of them. One of them is out of, well, sorry, 4 of them are out of print, but 3 of those you can get as Kindle versions. My book number 6 is called Beyond the Pain. So
Mm.
a lot of what we've been talking about today is actually covered in the book, but in a lot more detail, obviously.
Mhm.
As I say, I'm hoping that will be out on the 1st of July. That's the current plan. But
Okay.
it still hasn't gone through editing yet, so it's quite a fine deadline to get it by then.
Perfect. Thank you. And for our listeners, if you weren't able to grab that pen and paper to write down this information, do not worry. Diana's taking care of you because I'm going to make sure that it's in the description so you can go and find where you can find Leigh, his basically his podcast. I'm going to make sure I put all that information in there, his social media handles. So if you want to follow him on LinkedIn, Instagram, any of those, you can follow him. So I'll make sure that we got his back and we got your back, listeners. Okay. um It's been truly a joy. I mean, like we could sit there and talk for hours because
Such good information.
this is good information. I mean, just alone, like you said, we can just focus on nutrition, and that's like 10 episodes right there. Well, actually continuous. It's
Mm.
endless, you know? So I want to thank you. Thank you for being on our show and everything. It's been such an honor. I am so happy. Now, like I've always told our guests that have come on, you are now part of La Familia, the life in between familia. So your family. So if anytime you want to come back and return
Gracias,
and
muy bien.
yes,
Hey,
yes,
see?
muy bien. Love that. You are welcome. You are part of the family, so you are more than welcome to come anytime. I want to thank you. Patrick, do you have any final questions before we say goodbye?
I'm just going based off of Ted Lasso now, like Manchester United, Chelsea, any of those ring a bell? I don't know.
Uh,
It's going to be soccer, football, Europe,
Yeah,
but no,
I
no.
do know them. Yeah, my friend was actually the strength coach at Chelsea a few years back.
Hey, cool. See,
Yeah,
see, we're one
I'm a
time away.
Liverpool fan though. I'm a Liverpool fan.
okay,
Liverpool.
see, you said the wrong Liverpool fan over here. I'm supporting Lee, okay?
Yeah, Liverpool. We're going for Liverpool. No,
Liverpool.
this
Okay.
was awesome. This was really good and so much good information. And I'll be getting that book. I think it'd be a good gift. So,
Mhm.
listeners, that book would be a really good gift for the people in your life and
Yes.
yourself.
For our
Well,
listeners out there,
I just want to
absolutely.
say thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed it. It's been really good fun.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I just want listeners, I know you know someone that needs to hear this episode. Please forward it, share it, comment,
Sure.
like. We want to make sure that this episode gets to the right person that needs to hear it. You love someone and you know that they're going through something, share this. You need them, you want them to get healthy, share this. And Patrick, where can our listeners find us or the
Yes, for all of our Liverpool fans and family out there, you can find us wherever you find your podcasts. Find us on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Facebook, Spotify. We're out there, Life and In Between podcast. And thank you again so much, Lee. This is really good stuff. You have planted some seeds for our listeners, for myself as well. It's opening me to the woo. So we're going there. Ah.
Thank you, everyone.
Awesome.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just thanks again for having me. It's been really good fun.
Thank you so much, everyone. I want to thank everyone. So, peace and love. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone.
How did you do the